A nearly 60-year-old cold case now unraveling in an Hidalgo County courtroom. A former priest on trial for killing a McAllen teacher. Channel 5 News covering this story since the beginning. Our Christine Galvan knocked on a door in Phoenix in 2003.
Did you kill Irene Garza, Mr. Feit?
Thank you for asking that wonderful question. Have a good day.
Mr. Feit.
Last year, Channel 5 News was the only news crew in Arizona when John Feit was arrested. Our team coverage continues today. Day one just wrapped up. Channel 5's Christine Galvan standing by live with what happened in the courtroom today. Christine.
So far, 6 people have testified on the state's behalf. John Feit left this courthouse behind us about an hour ago after a long and emotional day. A walker supported John Feit's 84-year-old body when he arrived for day one of his murder trial. Feit is accused of killing Irene Garza in McAllen in April of 1960. He was a 27-year-old priest back then. She was a 25-year-old second-grade teacher. Their paths crossed on Easter weekend at Sacred Heart Catholic Church.
Irene Garza went into a church trusting that her soul would be saved, but it was suffocated.
That much is certain. Investigators found Irene's body 5 days after she disappeared. It would take nearly 60 years for the case against Feit to land in front of a jury.
You use that common sense in your heart. And I ask each one of you to open the eyes of your heart and find John Feit guilty of murder.
I disagree with Mr. Garza. The findings of facts that you make may hurt your heart. And while I too ask you to bring your common sense into the courtroom, do not let your heart make those findings.
Former Channel 5 News anchor Daryl Davis testified about off-the-record conversations he had with the Hidalgo County District Attorney at the time of Irene's death.
She said he knew that John Feit had committed the murder, and the church knew he committed the murder.
There were tears.
I was there every day until they found her.
Sylvia Acevedo Stern was Irene's godsister.
It was just the scary unknown that someone you knew and that you loved had disappeared.
The jury heard from 6 different witnesses today, including a doctor's wife and a retired priest. 7 hours after he arrived for court, John Feit once again leaned against a walker and left the 92nd District Court. Daryl Davis was the original Channel 5 News reporter on the case, but 14 years ago, Channel 5 sent me to Arizona to knock on John Feit's door and ask him about Irene. He was not pleased to see me. And Carrie, you were there just last year.
I was there in 2016, and he didn't answer any of my questions either, but he is going to answer to a court now. Now, we've said this so many times. This is a 57-year-old case, and for the prosecution, this is a journey back in time. The state is taking this jury back to 1960 when Irene Garza was killed. Today, lead prosecutor Michael Garza said it was when Irene went to confession, so her soul would be cleansed, but instead it was suffocated. There is a story being told right now about what McAllen was like back then, the streets that were and were not in existence, investigative procedures that were very different from how cases are being investigated now. They even talked about how investigators would hold up evidence in one hand and hold cigarettes in the other. No gloves, no DNA testing then, nothing. It was definitely a different time. And Feit's attorney says, yes, it was a different time. Cases were handled differently, but the facts are still the facts. And lead defense attorney Renee Flores told the jury there weren't enough facts then, there aren't enough facts now to convict John Feit of murder. Find the facts, he said, and once you do, you'll find that Feit is not guilty. Now, Feit has been pretty solemn today, pleading not guilty at the start of trial today. I've covered several of the hearings leading up to this trial and have watched John Feit pretty carefully. He's been more talkative and more animated during other hearings, but today he's been very quiet, only speaking from time to time to his attorneys, jotting a few notes down. Some members of Irene's family are here today. Her cousins Linda de la Viña and Noemi Sigler. I spoke with them today, and Noemi said when she got here her hands were trembling. That was at the start of the day, but by the end of the day, she said they had found some strength and they're relieved that this day is finally here and they want to see some justice. All right, so let's get to the jury. This jury, there's a panel of 5 men, 7 women, 3 women as alternates, and it really is a pretty young jury. There are mostly in their 30s and 40s, this group. It's a very attentive group. I watched them carefully today too, sitting up every single time that they would want to make sure they could see something that's being presented in court today. They wanted to make sure they didn't miss anything. The courtroom itself, though, is pretty quiet. People here watching the trial, occasionally just laughing during some of the questioning. Christine talked about Mr. Darrell Davis. He identified himself in a photo from 1961. He said, "That's when I was young and dynamic." Everyone, though, listening to every word, every bit of evidence being presented. People have been coming in and out of the courtroom today, I think just wanting to listen in on this case that has taken 57 years to bring to trial. 2 of the witnesses, also Christine mentioned this, a former priest who did some work with Irene and a woman who was a family friend, her god sister, she called herself, moved to tears today, recalling who Irene was, the day Irene went missing, and of course the day that her body was found. Now, I took a photo today also, and I want to share it with our viewers right now. I hope we have that photo up. I also want to give you a look back at a photo from 1962. It is the very same courtroom. In 1962, John Feit was here in the 92nd District Court. He pled no contest to aggravated assault charges then. He was accused of assaulting America Guerra when she was at a church in Edinburgh. He's back now. We have one more note. John Feit is married. He has 3 children. He has several grandchildren too. None of his family members were in court for his trial today. His attorney says they just couldn't afford to travel here for this. All right, testimony continues tomorrow. We will be here bringing you everything that happens in the courtroom. For now, we're live in Edinburgh. Carrie Zayas, Channel 5 News at 6.